Hello, my name is Denny Creehan, and I'm here to talk to you about the third and final part of our Wing T racehorse practice plan philosophy. This third tape, we're going to finish with the offensive end practice plan, progress on to the offensive lineman practice plan, then finish up with group and team. The next drill that we need to talk about with the offensive ends is our release drill period. And this simply means getting off the line of scrimmage against a defensive back or an outside linebacker or somebody who's right up on you and trying not to let you out of there. As I mentioned earlier in the previous tape, whatever the defensive line coach is teaching his defensive linemen to use against pass blockers in terms of how to escape those guys, the receiver coach really should learn those same techniques. He's going to need them. All right, now the down release is the first one that we have on here. And this could apply to a split end or a spread end out there wide with a DB on him, or a tight end in his position with an outside backer lined up on him. Down release simply means that the receiver is going to take a 45-degree step down to his inside, and then he's going to burst up the field. Now, what helps him do this? Well, as he takes the 45-degree step, he should dip his outside shoulder so that it makes his target small and reduces the amount of area that the defensive back or back linebacker has to hit. And as he reduces that shoulder, as he turns that shoulder, when he bursts up the field, he should take that backside arm and rip. Just like a defensive lineman rips through an offensive blocker, he should rip through the defensive back as he bursts vertically north and south up the field. That's a down release. The second release technique that we give them is what we call a pull release. All right, now on a pull release, we're going to use a pull step. We're going to actually use pull technique where we step flat down the line, pivot the backside foot, we take the backside shoulder, and again we dip that shoulder, we pull, we get flat, and we get away from the man on us, and then as soon as we can do that, we burst vertically straight up the field. Okay? So we're actually using pull technique just like a lineman pulls on sweep or a lineman pulls on trap, whatever. They're going to pull, and then they're going to turn north and south up the field. Again, if you take the outside shoulder or backside shoulder, reduce it, turn the shoulder to make your target smaller, and then use your rip to help yourself burst vertically up the field. That will help execute this technique. The third release we give these guys is what we call a fake release. Now, a fake release simply means that we're going to fake to one side and release to another. We do not allow our players to use this if the man on them is a man that we are going to log block. Okay? So if we're running waggle or something where we're going to log block or pin that defender inside, he's not allowed to use a fake release. We do not allow it. But if we're going to pocket pass or drop back or fake play action and drop back, then he can use any kind of release technique he wants, because we're not worried about whether or not we have to log that man that's playing on him. Okay, so the fake release is simply that. Now, I've seen this done a couple of different ways. One is where just the head fakes, and you get your weight transferred. The tight end will transfer his weight by head faking to the outside. Now his weight is on his outside foot. He pushes off that foot and he can release inside. So just the head fake might get the job done. Another way to coach this is to actually take the head and the foot to that side and have the foot step and the head fake to the outside. Again, your weight gets transferred to the outside foot, and now you can release to the inside. We like this with our tight ends running a drag route, and our spread ends can do this also against a corner who's pressed up. And when we do it with the spread ends, we're usually trying to get vertical, so we'll we'll have them use their head fake and then finish the release vertically up the field. Tight ends can finish this with a drag route or something along those lines. All right, next is a swim release. On a swim release, the defensive man is going to try to hold you up, and he probably uses his hands to try to jam the receiver. Okay? When he sticks his hands out there, we expect our receivers to be just like our defensive linemen, be proficient with their hands and slap the hands off of us as we swim through. A couple of coaching points on this. We want to slap that defender at about the elbow area so that we can control this joint. As we control the elbow joint, we push the arm into the body of the defender, and now we've reduced the amount of space that he has, plus we've gotten his hands off of us. So now we can slap those arms right at the elbow area, and then we will swim right through. And when we swim, we don't want to windmill. We don't want to bring the arm way up over, expose our ribs to the defender so that he can jam us in the ribs, and now we don't get off the line of scrimmage. When we swim, we punch right through the man's shoulder, right over top the man's shoulder pad, just like a great Olympic swimmer punches through the water. He doesn't windmill. He punches right over top of the water. That's how we want to look too. So when we swim, we're going to swim right over top of that man's shoulder, and we got to get the hands off of us first. All right, the last one is for tight ends only, and this release is called a block release. Now, sometimes when a guard pulls to log a defensive end, and that defensive end is lined up in a 7 technique or inside of our tight end, the guard pulls and he can't get to that defensive end fast enough. That guy is so close and he's coming so hard that the guard has trouble getting him log blocked. The block release will slow that man down just enough so that the guard can log block him. In fact, it slows him down to the point sometimes where the guard will pass him up. So there's a timing element that's involved here. It's very important. The block release helps set up the guard or the back's log block, whoever has to be responsible to pin that defensive end inside. So now, if we have a 7 technique, our tight end now comes off. He's going to hit with his right shoulder, so he steps with his left foot. That same opposition principle still applies. As he comes off, he strikes the man with his right shoulder, but he doesn't strike him like a block where he's trying to finish him in a direction. He's going to strike him, but he's going to run through him as he strikes him. We don't want to slow the man's route down. We just want to slow the defender down a little bit. So on this block release, we strike him with the shoulder, but as we strike him, we're also running right through him and trying to get vertically down the field. One more quick coaching point. The fake release is easily combined with all the others. So we can head fake and execute a down release. We can head fake and execute a pull release. We can head fake and swim release. We could head fake and down release. We don't do that normally. The block release, slows you down enough that you don't need to head fake along with that. But that's release drill for the receivers. The next part of the individual practice plan for the receivers is simply working on patterns. Now, I mentioned this earlier. I've picked out a few pass patterns here that are common in wing tee. Again, to know which pass patterns to teach your players, go through your playbook and make a list of the pass patterns that they run on each play. And, you might have post 8 times, you might have curl 4 times. You're just going to find out how many different patterns that you have to run and which ones need to be emphasized the most. Okay? But here now I have some examples. The first route on here is a post route, and we break our post route at 12 yards. We try to run a skinny post where we stay between the corner and the safety, and so we're going to get vertical after we make the post break. Again, during this drill, we have a cone down at the yardage marker where the break needs to be made. Okay? And we may or may not throw a football in this drill. What we're trying to get accomplished here is to run very precise pass patterns. Okay, we'll have ball drills coming up next where we work on actually catching the football. All right, we break our curl route, which is number 2 here. We break the curl route at 12 yards, so again, that cone is right there at 12 yards. And we come back to the quarterback and we slide to an open area when we run our curl route. If we come back to the quarterback on our break and that's the open area, we sit down right there. If there's somebody underneath us, we're going to slide until we find an open area and then sit in it. Okay? If it's man coverage, you run away from man coverage. If it's zone coverage, you sit in the hole of a zone coverage. So if it's man coverage, when we make the break, we'll come right back to the quarterback with our numbers facing him, catch the ball, and then turn it upfield. Most of our routes, you'll notice, are broken at 12 yards. That's because we're a 5-step team and it times up pretty well for us. So the out route, again, we break it at 12 yards. Okay, now we want to roll over. When we run the out route, about 6 yards down the field, we want to roll over, which simulates a quick out. Okay, so all we do is, as we're breaking up the field, we take the inside foot and just cross over our stem, which is kind of a rollover step, and then we continue vertically up the field. And now that gives the corner a little hesitation, because when we roll over, he may pause thinking quick out. And now as we burst vertically up the field, now we can get him really running. And if you get him really running, the out cut should be good on him, especially if he hesitated at all when you rolled over. But we run the traditional out. We break back to the ball on our 12-yard out. We plan off the inside foot, drive back to the ball, get our head turned to the snap to the quarterback, and catch the ball before we go out of bounds. Or catch the ball soon enough to get turned back up the field running north and south. If we have coached the speed cut out, where we break it at 12 and speed cut to 14, and also the speed cut where we break it at 6 and catch the ball at 8 for the quick out game. We've coached them all different ways. Right now, for our offense, for the wing tee offense, and for the plays that we like to run the out route, we like the traditional out, and that's what we're teaching at this point in time. Number 4 here is a dig route. Our dig means that we're going to break to the post at 12 yards, where we have the first cone, at 18 yards of depth. As we're breaking to the post, when we get to the 18-yard marker, we'll break again flat, hard across the football, parallel to the line of scrimmage. Now, you can also run the dig where you just get straight vertical and you don't do it off a post cut. Run it off a straight vertical stem and then break hard to the inside. Number 5 is a fly route, and this may or may not need to be your number 1 route that you teach, because a lot of things do come off the fly route. But when we coach our guys to run a fly route, we force them to run the outside release. Okay? So normally, if the corner is trying to jam us, then we're going to attack his technique, get him to squeeze a little bit, and then try to escape him on the outside. Sometimes our fly routes are force release to the outside. There is no chance that they're allowed to take any other release. Okay? Then there are times when we're in maybe a 5-step game where we will let him release vertically inside a man. But normally, when you release inside a man on a fly route, you get jammed, the field gets condensed on you, and you don't spread the defense like you really want to. So we'll, at 12 yards, roll over again and burst up the field and try to capture the man's outside shoulder. Okay, a waggle route mostly applies to a tight end, but could apply to a spread end as well. And we tell the tight end, when he's in a tight end position, in other words, he has a tackle and a guard and a center right here, and he has got outside linebacker lined up on him, he's going to take a down release. He may not use a fake release here because we're logging that outside linebacker. And he takes his down release and he explodes vertically up the field, and we want him to get deep on the numbers. That's exactly what we tell him. Those are the numbers that are out there between the hash mark and the sideline. His responsibility is to get deep on the numbers. Okay? We want him to threaten the defense deep down the field, and when Waggle comes to his side, he's the touchdown shot. We're looking at him first to see if we can score the touchdown. The crossing route is next. This is the backside of Waggle. This can be a spread end or a tight end. And we tell these players to use an inside or a down release, and then we tell them to burst vertically up the field. Okay, and we want them, as they burst vertically up the field, to aim right for the middle of the 2 hash marks. Okay, and they're going right down the middle of the 2 hash marks. If there's a defensive back between those 2 hash marks, then the middle third is covered. So we tell the crossing receiver, when you get to 10 yards, break flat and stay outside or stay between the hash marks. okay, and find an open area and sit down in it. So at 10 yards, he's going to break, sit down in an open area, but don't cross the far hash mark. If there is no defensive back between the two hash marks, then obviously we're going to attack that voided area and go straight down through the middle of those safeties. Number 8 is angle flag, which is mostly a split end route, can be run by a tight end. When we teach angle flag, we basically are using this on the front side of the counter bootleg play. So this would be the spread end when the counter bootleg play comes to him. That counter bootleg being off the tackle trap counter. Now, what we tell this guy to do is go for a point that's on a 60-degree angle, 60 degrees, and we go for 4 steps. So he goes 4 steps on a 60-degree angle, and then he breaks and he gets deep on the numbers. All right, his job is to get deep on the numbers, just like the tight end did on the waggle route. Okay, the next route is a drag route, and that's a route where we're going to release inside, and we can use a head fake, any kind of release technique that we want. We're going to release inside, run across the formation so that we would intersect the far sideline at 6 yards of depth. This is not a crossing route, it's a drag route. It's much shallower. Okay, and the last route is what we call a Q, and we've just learned this recently and started running it as an alternative to angle flag or post corner. In this route, we burst vertically up the field. When we get to 12 yards, we take 1 stick step inside to give the defensive back the impression of post. So he takes 1 stick step inside, and then he rolls over, breaks to the sideline for a point 22 yards down the field. Okay, so at 12 yards, he takes a stick step inside, then he rolls over to his outside so that he'll hit the sideline at 22 yards down the field. And that's a pretty good alternative to post corner. And it really is the way we are running post corner at this point in time. And those are the routes. Those are the patterns, some common patterns. There are others, but those are the common ones that we are teaching to our ends right now. Next part of the receiver practice plan is ball drills. Now, ball drills are ball drills. Every coach probably has a whole lot of them, and they're all good. I will show you the ones that we work on consistently day in and day out. The first one is where all the receivers just get a football and they stand there and they play catch with each other. Now, they don't just play catch. As they play catch and as they catch the ball, they're responsible to execute fundamentals. The catch is the first thing. We want the ball caught with the thumbs together unless the ball is low and to the outside of our body, then we'll put the pinkies together. Okay? But we want the ball caught with the thumbs together. If you take the thumbs and put them together and then put the forefingers together, you form a triangle with your fingers, and we'd like the nose of the ball to come right into that triangle. Okay? And that's how they can aim the ball. As they catch the football, they should have nice soft hands, so they should give with the catch a little bit. So the ball hits their hands there, rather than having stone hands or stone fingers like you hear some kids called. As if they give with the catch a little bit, like a boxer gives with the punch a little bit, the amount of the blow is softened, and now the ball can be cradled. The next thing we want to do is tuck the ball away and cover it up and then burst north and south up the field. So while they're playing catch, they're not just catching the ball any way they want. We want to see good catch fundamentals involved in this drill. The second drill is a little drill we call turnaround drill. This is a concentration type of a drill, and the receivers will be about 10 yards away from the coach. The coach will throw them the ball. Now, while the receivers are lined up, their backs are to the coach. Okay? And the coach, the timing of this is if they're 10 yards away, the coach will throw the ball, and right as the ball is released from his hand, he says, ball. And as soon as he says ball, the receiver will flip his hips around so he's facing the coach, and he's got to get focused on the ball quickly, get it caught, get it tucked away, get it covered up, and then get up the field. All these drills should be finished by the receiver going up the field. Okay, so catch the ball and turn up the field. Learn those good habits. All right, now we want the receivers to work on flipping to their left and also on flipping to their right. So they should go through this drill twice, once flipped in each direction. All right, the next drill is a comeback drill. Now, we run a comeback route off of our fly route. I mean, we teach the kids, if you're running a fly and you have the option for a comeback, then between 10 and 14 yards, you need to make the decision, can this guy stay with me or not? Somewhere between 10 and 14 yards, you decide, if that guy can't stay with me, I'm going to keep on going and I'm going to run my fly route. But if that defensive back is good, he's staying with you or keeping a cushion, then at 14 yards, we take the outside foot, we plant the outside foot, and we turn back to the inside and work right back down the stem. And that's what we're doing right here. So the receiver will take a couple of steps forward, plant his outside foot, and come back down the stem. The coach throws him the ball, and he catches the ball and turns up the field and finishes the catch by getting up the field. So that's the comeback drill. And again, we want to do that to both sides. Okay? We want to come back, we want to plant our left foot, come back down the stem, and then plant our right foot and come back down the stem. And the coach will throw the receiver the ball, and you notice the backups are behind, they're ready to go. So as soon as that guy goes, the next guy goes, he goes up, he's ready to run, and this guy here that just went, he comes to the back of the line, and they just rotate through the line. All right, the next drill is what we call sideline drill. And you'll notice in these drills that we've taken the route out of the drills, the pattern. Doesn't need to be run. We've already worked on running precise patterns. Now all we want to do is work on really catching and focusing on catching that football. So we take the route out of it. We take the stem out of it anyway. We might finish the route and then just work on the catching of the football. Now here's a little drill we call sideline drill. On sideline drill, this simulates an out route. So the receiver will step, plant his inside foot, now break back toward the line of scrimmage, and the coach, who's only about 10 yards away, will throw the ball right toward the sideline. And the receiver's got to catch the ball and tap dance his feet so that he stays in bounds. And even though the college rule is 1 foot in and the high school rule is 1 foot in, the NFL rule is 2 feet in, and so we're going to work on tapping those feet on the sideline. You'll be amazed how it pays off even in a college game. Next, we have a drill we call one-handed catch drill. Now here the receiver will run vertically down the field, and the coach will throw the ball from his inside to his outside. We want the coach to throw the ball over his outside shoulder, and as the receiver runs down the field, he looks to his inside, but he catches the ball with one hand to the outside, and he tucks that ball away, and he covers it up just with one hand. Now, we don't necessarily advocate using one hand in a game, but in this drill, we're concentrating on one hand so that the receiver really has to focus on catching that ball and has to really concentrate. And even kids with bad hands who start out the program in their first year with bad hands will develop good hands, and this is one of the big ways that they do it, by the one-hand catch drill. The next drill is called distraction drill. In this drill now, the coach is going to throw the ball to a receiver, and the receiver is going to run between at least two different players, and maybe it could be even 3 or 4. But as the receiver runs across the field and between those two distractors, those distractors are going to wave their arms. Okay, and we tell them, wave your arms, try to distract the receiver, but don't touch the ball. Let the ball go through to him so he can work on catching it. And so they can run right through and catch the football, and they keep on going. And then they line up over here on the other side, and now the next guy goes, and then after they all go do the drill once, then they'll go back and do it going in the other direction. But that's distraction drill. We're merely trying to get some people to distract the receivers, make them lose their eye focus or whatever, so that forces the receiver to concentrate even more. We have a gauntlet drill for our receivers to learn to catch the ball and turn up in a crowd and tuck the ball away, get it covered up, and not fumble the thing. So as the coach throws the receiver the ball who's coming across the middle, he turns up into the gauntlet, and each guy will either have a shield and they'll bang the receiver with the shield, or they'll just use their hands and they'll try to strip the ball out of that receiver's hands as he runs up through the gauntlet. So he's going to get banged or stripped, one or the other, as he's going up through that gauntlet. Okay, and then he takes his place in the gauntlet, and the next guy comes down, and the next guy gets to run the drill. And we'll catch the ball running to the right and turn it up into the gauntlet, and then we catch the ball running to the left, turning up into the gauntlet. So we get to come from each direction and turn up through the gauntlet. And another drill which we think is really good is bad ball drill. Now here a receiver runs across the field, and the coach throws him the ball, and he's going to throw him the ball high, low, out in front so that he has to dive, behind him so that he has to slide. He's going to throw the ball and try to make the throw a tough catch. Now, some coaches should be real good at this because they can't throw anyway. And they throw the ball all over the place. They force the receiver to react to bad ball all the time. Another great way to do this drill, though, is to have the receiver not necessarily sprint, but run at a controlled speed and have the coach hold the football at the very end of the ball and then stiff arm it, making the ball knuckle all over the place to the receiver, and he's got to really focus on that football as it knuckles and it flutters through the air. Great drill for kids that don't have very good hands when they first come to you. But those are our ball drills. And the rest of the practice plan for the receivers goes right back to what I've already shown you. The next drill in the practice plan is passing with the backs. And we've already talked about that when we went through the running back and the quarterback progression. We talked about passing with the ends, and that's again simply getting together as a group and throwing routes versus air, or individually throwing routes versus air with a quarterback. And then the final part of the practice plan for the ends is the four-corner drill again, which I've already shown you in the previous tape. Okay, last but not least, we need to talk about our offensive line and their practice plan. Now, we've already shown you the shoulder skills, the routine period, and after those two periods are over, the linemen start right in on their blocking technique period. And they have individual blocks and combination blocks that they will start with. And again, each day the coach fills in how much time he needs for individual blocks, combination blocks, and so forth. And he'll fill in which blocks to work on. Your position coach should know that. He's got the best feel for his players. He should know which ones need to be worked on. Okay, the first drill looks like this. These are individual blocks. Now I have drawn here the block and how it's executed. One thing I failed to draw is I didn't draw in the fact that everybody on the team is doing this. So when we're working individual blocks, one-on-one blocks, if there are 14 linemen, then there are 7 blockers and 7 guys holding the bags. All 7 blockers are working on block. So the first block is on. Now if we're going to block on right, then that means that we're going to block with the right shoulder. We're going to block the man straight ahead, and we're going to finish by swinging our tail and taking him parallel to the line of scrimmage. Okay, so this is an on block with the right shoulder. On these blocks I've tried to draw a little circle on the line which shows you the head placement of the offensive blocker. So that little dot represents the blocker's head. So on block, if we say on right, we block with the right shoulder. That means we step with the left foot. We take the quick step with the left foot, we strike with the right foot and the right shoulder, we drive the man off the line of scrimmage, and then we swing our tail and we try to finish the block going parallel to the line of scrimmage. Okay? We want to finish blocks and we want to swing our tail, and the reason that we want to do that is because we don't want to turn these guys, these defensive linemen, into linebackers. You could have the greatest block of your life. You could hit somebody so hard that you drove them 4 or 5 yards back off the line of scrimmage, and the guy falls off your block and makes a tackle for a 4-yard gain. What did we really gain? 4 yards. If we would have driven the guy off the ball and then swing our tail and take him in a direction and finish the block, now that ball carrier runs through the hole. This guy can't be a linebacker anymore because he's been finished in a direction. He's too far away from the football. So rather than turn defensive linemen into linebackers and give them a chance to make tackles, we want to swing our tail, we want to finish a block in a certain direction. All right, the next individual block for the lineman is called a gap block, which we've mentioned before when we discussed the tight end blocks. But here's a situation where the offensive blocker has to block a man who's going to penetrate the gap to his inside. When we do this block, we have the guy holding the bag hold the bag actually on the line of scrimmage in the neutral zone already. So the lineman now has to take a pull step. If he's going to block gap to his left, it's a right shoulder block. So he pull steps with the left foot, strikes with the right shoulder, getting his head across the front. We want the head to go right across the front of the belt buckle, block at the hip, and finish the block parallel to the line of scrimmage, flat down the line. All right, also blocking a man to your inside. If he's not a penetrator and he's more of a reading technique type of a player, we'll use a down technique on him. When we block down technique, we're blocking the man to our inside, but instead of putting our head across the front like a gap block, we now put our head behind him. This is down technique. So we're going to step right at the man's hip. In this drawing, this would be blocked with the left shoulder. I have our offensive lineman blocking to his inside. This is down left. Okay? So he's blocking with his left shoulder. He'll step with his right foot, make contact with his left shoulder, left foot, and then he will finish by swinging his tail and finishing this block parallel to the line of scrimmage, down the line. Okay? The next block is a fire block. Now, fire block is executed when I have a defensive man who's on the outside half of my body. And I've got to get my head to his outside because we're running a play to the outside. Okay? So in this case, we're going to use a fire technique. And a fire means my first step is going to be a 45-degree step. My toes are still pointing north and south, and my shoulders are still square to the line of scrimmage, but I am taking a fire step or a 45-degree step. I put my head to the outside, and I'm going to block with my inside shoulder. In this picture, this would be a left shoulder block. So the first step then obviously is with the right foot. Step with the right foot, strike with the left shoulder. Now we want to finish the man back to the inside, but initially we want to take the man off the line of scrimmage on that same 45-degree angle. All right, after taking him off the line of scrimmage on that angle, then we'll swing our tail and finish him back to the inside if we can. But we want to come off the ball with authority. We want to strike this guy, we want to knock him off the line of scrimmage. That's the most important part of the fire block. All right, the next block for the offensive lineman is what we call a reach block. Now on a reach block, I'm responsible to block a man who is one full man outside of me. Okay, so if I'm the offensive guard and that man is on the offensive tackle and I have to block him, how am I going to get it done? Well, I'm going to take a reach step on my reach block. And a reach step simply means we're going to step 90 degrees. We're going to step flat down the line of scrimmage, but now as opposed to a pull step, which goes flat down the line of scrimmage, a reach step, I'm going to step flat down the line of scrimmage, but my toes are still going to point north and south, and so are my shoulders. And when we reach block somebody like this, we are anticipating that this man would be moving toward the inside. Okay? As he moves toward the inside, I take my reach step, and now I execute fire technique from there. Okay, so I reach step with the right foot. Now from there I take my left leg and I drive it right through the middle of the man and I block with the left shoulder. So I'm stepping with the right foot, I'm blocking with the left shoulder. My opposition principles still apply. Now I'll block with this man with my head to the outside. His inside stunning has helped me, and I'll finish the block by swinging my tail and taking that man on a 45-degree angle back to the inside. All right, the next blocks are some blocks that can be worked into combination blocking drills, but we can also teach them as individual blocks, and the first one is a trap block. Okay? When we trap block, now obviously we're going to have a guy who's at least one man removed and probably two men removed, could even be three men removed in some cases. All right? Now we pull step, so our blocker takes a pull step flat down the line of scrimmage. He's going to block with his head to the inside on this, so he takes a pull step flat down the line of scrimmage, and then he works up into the line of scrimmage, blocks the defender with his head to the inside. So in this case, trap right would be right shoulder. And now, to finish the trap block, he's going to swing his tail and actually drive the man into the backfield. But we want this man to come nice and tight. Somewhere in here there's going to be a down block, and whoever executes that down block, we want the pulling trapper to stay nice and tight right off that down blocker's tail. So he's going to actually turn up into the line of scrimmage, get nice and tight off the tail of the down blocker, and then kick out on his trap inside out. The next block is a log block. Now, a log block means simply this. We have a man who's lined up outside of us. We have to pull, strike that man, and then hook him and finish him back to the inside. Now, you can say, Coach, that's an impossible block, but it is not if it's set up correctly. It's going to be set up by having another blocker release to the inside and having that defensive man against that release seal inside or step down to the inside. His momentum bringing him down to the inside creates the ability for us to make this block. When we log block, we describe it, the last few years, we've described the log block as a wrong shoulder kick out. So it tells our players that they are still going to pull up into the line of scrimmage exactly like they would on trap block, but now instead of blocking with the head to the inside and finishing the man back into the backfield, we block the man with the head to the outside and we finish him back in toward the center of the line of scrimmage. Okay, and that's a log block. The next block is a wall-off block, and this block is just like the tight ends. Let's say we had to send a guard through the hole, so he had to pull flat down the line, turn up through a hole, and then turn and wall off on a linebacker. That's exactly what he's doing in this block, and when we wall off linebackers, we put the head behind. Okay, and then the last block is what we call a pull check block. Now this is the backside of a play. Let's say we're going to run waggle to the right, and this blocker is the left tackle. Well, he's responsible to pull and check the second man on the defense, on the backside of the defense. Okay, so as he pulls, he's going to pull flat down the line of scrimmage and he's going to eye that man. If that man's a linebacker and he just scrapes and he's gone, then this tackle can pull, as he pulls, he can turn back to the outside and block the next free guy. If he's a defensive lineman and he's gone, he flowed down the line of scrimmage, then he can turn and look for the next man to the outside. But if that man holds his ground or penetrates or stays in that vicinity, then we must be able to get inside out on him and account for him with our backside blockers. And that's a pull check assignment. Those are most of the individual blocks that we work on in our practice plan. And next is the combination blocks. And there's 5 very common combination blocks that we work on very consistently in our program. The first one we want to talk about is gut. Now, combination blocks are more than one blocker and more than one defender, so this is an example of 2-on-2. Now, on gut blocking, we're going to have 2 defenders in the gap stacked behind each other. We'll do it at first with the big bags, and then we'll go to shields, and then we'll go to just bodies. Okay, the man on the right blocks down left, so he's going to use down technique, head goes behind, and then he finishes down the line of scrimmage. He could possibly have to use gap technique if that man's a penetrator, but he blocks either down left or gap left, and the man on the left blocks wall off to the right or gut to the right. This could be wall off or it could be called gut. Okay, and he simply is going to take his pull step and he's going to turn up nice and tight to the tail of that down blocker and wall off or gut block on that linebacker, and he also finishes that block parallel to the line of scrimmage. Okay, and that's gut left. Gut right would be the exact opposite. Now the man on the left blocks down to the right, and the man on the right pulls and blocks gut to the right. All right, the next block is called cross block. It's also a 2-on-2 block, and you can see that this is a play where we want to block down on one man and pull and trap out on another and run the ball between their 2 blocks. And this is a real good example of why we want to finish the blocks laterally down the line of scrimmage, because you can see if we finish these blocks, we create a lateral opening in the defense. And now we can burst north and south. So on cross block now, the inside man, or the man, in this case, this is cross block right, so the man on the left is going to block trap right. So he's going to pull, trap, and actually finish the guy back into the backfield. Okay? The man on the right is going to block down left. So he comes down, he blocks down technique, and he finishes his block parallel to the line of scrimmage. That's cross block right. We got a trap right and a down left. If we go cross block left, it just reverses. The man on the left, he's going to block down right. The man on the right, he's going to pull and trap inside out and block trap left. All right, the next block is a scoop block, and this is executed on a play that goes outside the two blockers, okay? Now on scoop block, the man who's covered executes fire technique, and the man who's uncovered executes reach technique. These two blockers are going to block these two defenders. All right, the fire blocker, he executes fire block technique, which I've already talked about. He comes off, he takes a fire step, he's going to block with his left shoulder, and if he makes contact with the man on him and that man stays on him and does not move toward the inside or pinch or slant inside, then he's going to stay on him and block him. The inside blocker takes a reach step, a flat 90-degree step, and then he starts to climb vertically up the field right off the inside hip of that defensive player. And he's going to cut off that linebacker who's going to scrape to the outside. Okay? That would be if there was no movement by the defense. Now the picture directly below that shows movement by the defense. Now the fire blocker takes his fire step, but the man on him slants to the inside. So what does that mean? That means he continues vertically up the field and he cuts off the linebacker as the linebacker scrapes. Now he's going to help the man who takes the reach step, because as that defensive man slants inside, when our outside man takes the fire step, as that defender slants inside, he takes his inside hand, and as he steps vertically up the field, he punches the defender and punches him and tries to knock him right into the man executing the reach block. The inside man executes reach block, so he takes that flat 90-degree step, and as the defender slants in toward him, now he executes his fire technique from there. He takes over the man slanting inside, and the tackle takes over the linebacker scraping to the outside, or the outside man. Okay? The next block is over, and this is a predetermined scoop. Now, on this block, we don't care what the defensive reaction is. The front side blocker is going to take a fire step. He's going to rip through the defensive man and climb to the linebacker. The backside blocker is going to take a reach step and execute fire technique on the man covering this outside blocker. So he's going to go and block that defensive lineman, and the outside blocker is going to go right through the defensive lineman to the next level and block the linebacker. It's a predetermined scoop. We use it on the backside of option plays with the backside guard and center against maybe a shaded nose guard or something like that. And the last combination block is what we call lead post inside out, which I've already talked to you about. There's three blockers and three defenders. The inside or the middle blocker is posting. We're going to elevate the level, or he's going to elevate the defensive man that's playing on him by blocking a little bit higher up in the numbers. The lead blocker comes down at the hip. Those two finish that block parallel to the line of scrimmage, and the blocker on the left will pull and he'll block trap to the right and finish his block back into the line of scrimmage. And we like to rotate these guys. We'll give these three blockers a shot to be all three blocks. One time he'll lead, next time he posts, next time he traps. Then they go on defense and the other three guys get to go. And that's lead post, trap right. You can also do this lead post, trap left. Okay, and now your trapper would be the man on the right. He would pull inside out to the left and trap that man. And that's it. Those are the combination blocks for our offensive line. Continuing with the offensive line practice, the next drill is sweep drill, and this is where all of our linemen learn to play the guard techniques or execute the guard techniques for the sweep play. Now in this drill we have two guards in their guard positions, two more guards holding bags out here, another two guards holding bags here, and the rest of the guards lined up behind getting ready to go in and jump in. That's all linemen. And I'm writing guards, but it's anybody. It's any tackle, it's any center, it's any guard, it's anybody who plays offensive line. All right, on sweep drill, we use our spacing boards. We put the guards lined up where their space would be, and we put a cone 2 yards deep behind the inside foot of the tackle. The reason for that is the lead guard's technique on sweep is to pull 2 steps on a 45-degree angle away from the line of scrimmage. On his 3rd step, he flattens out, and then on his 4th step, he comes downhill. Now, the reason for that is if we run the sweep to the side of a dive back, and the dive back dives right in this direction, and the guard pulls flat down the line, the two of them collision each other. Now you have no play. So we want to have the front side guard on sweep pull with some depth, plus that gives him a good downhill inside out angle, because he's going to block the first man who shows outside our wingback's block. As the wingback comes down on the defensive end, that guard will come right off his tail and block the first guy that shows. It's not always a defensive back. It might be a scraping linebacker or a filling safety or a defensive end looping out. Could be anybody. Okay, so the first two guards go. The coach stands back here and he says, sweep right on sound. Set. The first guards go. This guard pulls and he kicks out. The backside guard pulls. When he gets to the right guard's area, he gets a little bit extra depth, about a yard more, and he turns up and walls off on that linebacker, and he turns up through the first hole he can find. Now the first guard, when he kicks out, we can put the kick out block anywhere we want, but to start with, we'll put the bag in the backfield about 2 yards deep and simulate a corner blitz coming off the edge, which is probably the toughest thing he's got to get blocked. He's got to get his eyes on that and get it blocked right away. So we'll start that way first, and then we'll go to shields with these things, and then we'll go to just bodies, and we'll move them around, and we'll have them give them different looks. But as soon as that drill finishes, the guys holding these bags, they come to the back of the line. The next two guards jump up, and now we're going to run sweep to the left. So it's sweep right on sound. Set, run the drill. Sweep left on sound. Set, run the drill. Coach, again, staying in a centralized location, making quick corrections while on their way back to the huddle. Okay, and then the next group goes. In 5 minutes, you can get a whole bunch of sweeps in. And that's the sweep drill. Next thing the linemen go to is what we call assignment period. There will be an assignment period every day. And this is where the line, as a 5-man group, rapid fire blocks their plays. So the coach will call out 83 cross blocks. Set, bang. They all run to their blocking assignment and execute their technique against the bag, or it could be done against the defense. And now it's blocking bodies against bodies. And it could be any spacing the offensive line coach feels like he has to block for that particular week. I have the 50 spacing drawn up here. It could be anything. Okay? Now, the backup linemen are back in here. They're waiting their chance. So the first team line, they go. They're going to, say the coach has 5 or 6 plays for them to block. He'll call them out. They execute the blocks, run back, get lined up again. Coach calls the next play. They execute the blocks, come back until they've got all the plays run that the coach wanted to get worked on. Now the next group jumps up. Now it's their turn. Okay, and then they just keep rapid firing this. And there will be an assignment period in every single practice plan. It'll either be done live against the defense or it'll be done like this against bags. Okay? Next is pass pro drills. We have 4 common drills that we like to work on. First one is called mirror drill. And this is a drill where we put the linemen on the sideline and they have the yard stripes to give them a 5-yard area to work with. We put a partner across from them who will go back and forth between those 5-yard stripes, and our linemen will put their hands behind their backs, put their toes on the sideline, and they will shuffle back and forth up and down the sideline and mirror the man across from them. And all we want that man to do across from them is go back and forth between the stripes. And those linemen now will mirror that man. And they've got to do it by keeping that man between their legs. So they just keep shuffling their feet, and they've got to change direction and go back and forth, and they shuffle their feet, go right, left, and keep the man between the legs. And all they're doing is mirror. There's no contact. The second one is jam drill. Now on this one, the lineman will set, they'll take their pass set, and the defensive man will come forward, and they work nothing more than the technique of jamming the man. Okay, they get themselves braced, they have their inside foot up in a post foot position, their outside foot back in what we call a staggered position, and they make contact. When they make contact, we want to see their neck bull and their head go back with their neck bulled and their shoulders go back. Okay, we don't want to see any heads forward because that's when they whiff and they miss and the guy makes a sack. Okay, the third drill is a kick slide drill. And on this drill, if we have a wide rusher, then to our outside, then we have to kick our outside foot, slide our post foot, and we may have to do it twice. We may have to take a second kick step and slide again. So if the man's real wide, we might have to take 2 kick slides to cut his angle off to block him as he comes off the edge. If the man's outside of us but not too wide, we might only need one kick step to get set on him. And if the man's inside of us, then we're going to power step him, which means when we get in our post stagger position, we're going to take our inside foot and power step that man to the inside. So it all depends on the alignment of the man you have to block. And we simply tell our players this: set to the man's inside number, wherever that is. So if it's out there way wide, they might have to kick slide a couple of times. In tighter, they might not have to kick slide but once. Inside of you, I've got a power step inside so I can set to your inside number. The last drill we call stunt pickup, and that's 2-on-2 versus stunts or versus a straight rush. And on these drills, the first one is an example of an inside call. Here, the ball would be to the left of these blockers. Here's the football in both pictures. Okay? The first diagram is a penetrator coming through B gap. The guard's assigned to block him, and the man outside of him that the tackle's going to block steps and then loops inside. This tackle should yell inside, inside, and then he turns and he drive blocks his own man off the penetrator, and his own man comes off and blocks the looper, and he takes over the penetrator. To the other side, this is an outside call. Okay? Now we have the guard sets on his man loops to the outside, he yells outside, outside, he turns and he drive blocks the tackle who's blocking the penetrator. The tackle blocks his man until he hears a call. He steps down inside, blocks his man. When he hears outside and feels the drive block, then he bumps off and he picks up the looper going to the outside. And that's our stunt pickup drill, and we like to do that versus ourselves and against the defense. Now, I could have shown you this drill right after sweep drill because it's set up the same way, but we save it for later in practice, so I saved it for the last thing the linemen do, and that's our waggle drill, set up exactly like the sweep drill, except that now we put the cones 1 yard behind the center's feet. Okay, and now when we run waggle, the first guard pulls flat and log blocks the man in the defensive end position. The second guard will pull, cross over for depth so that the fullback beats him through the hole, and now he flattens out and he kicks out anything that might penetrate. So he's the kick out guy. If nothing penetrates, he leads the quarterback around the flank. We bring the quarterback to this drill so that he can come down and execute the footwork and get the feel for when there's penetration and when there's not. Okay, so the first two guards, we go waggle right, first two guards go, they execute their blocks. The men that were holding those bags, they come to the back of the line. Next two guards jump up. These first two grab the bags. Now we go waggle to the left, and we just keep going. Waggle right on sound. Set. Waggle left on sound. Set. Coach stays in that central location, makes those corrections quickly, and we get lots of reps, even though this might only be a 5-minute period. The very beginning of our practice plan and examined wing T practice plan. We've now finished takeoff period and individual period. What's left is mixed group work and 11-on-11, pass under pressure, 11-on-11 drills. So here's how mixed group work looks. We have two drills. This is run drill period, okay? In run drill period, we're concentrating on run plays. Okay, now this is in the internal part of this drill, we're going to have our linemen, maybe or maybe not our tight end and our backs, and they are going to work internal running plays against the inside of the defense, the defensive line and the linebackers. We do this with live blocking, no tackling to the ground. At the other end of the field is a perimeter drill where we're working on all outside plays, options, sweeps, and flank passes. Now there's no tackles in this drill, but it's basically the backs and the receivers against the linebackers and the DBs, but we will add the guards to the drill so that they can get their work on their pulling techniques. And that's the run drill part of our practice. Two drills going on at the same time. We can switch people halfway through the drill if they need to be in both places. All right, the passing drills are two. Just like we had two run drills, we have two passing drills. At one end of the field, we have what we call pass skeleton, or we commonly refer to as skelly. This is the offensive backs and receivers working against the defensive backs and linebackers, and we're throwing pass routes against the defensive coverages. We want minimum 75% completion in this drill. It's an offensive drill. Okay? And then at the other end of the field, we have live pass protection with offensive linemen pass blocking live against defensive linemen or linebackers who are pass rushing live. We put a big bag back here to simulate the quarterback, and these guys have to get to the quarterback, and we actually put a stopwatch on them to see who our best pass rushers are. Okay? Last is our 11-on-11 drills, and we have one that we like. It's along the lines of passing, and it's just 11-on-11. It's pass under pressure, and as I told you earlier, this is a period where the defense runs every blitz that they have, and the offense has to protect it and get the ball off. And when we do this, we bring live heat against the quarterbacks all the time. When we get to game time, it never feels as bad. And then the last but not least are our 3 ways to do 11-on-11. I've shown you these and talked about them earlier. The first way is versus bags. And this is when we're in T-shirts and shorts, or we're in shoulder pads and shorts and we can't do live hitting. We put the linemen in the big bags and we put everybody else in the shields, and we have the offense run their plays against that spacing. And it's timing, it's execution, it's assignments, it's footwork, it's all those mental things that we need to do, clean up details, but it's not physical. The second way we do 11-on-11 is versus bodies. As I told you earlier, we can go against scout teams, or we can go against anybody with a live body. Now we have full pads on, we're actually going to block body on body. It's 11-on-11, there is no tackling. And the last way to do this is live full-speed scrimmage, where we tackle the backs to the ground. And those are our 3 ways to do 11-on-11. Now that's the wing T practice plan. Every single part of this is set up for maximum reps. We use our racehorse philosophy. Any of these 11-on-11 or mixed group work drills, there's 2 huddles shotgunning back and forth, bang, 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 so we get maximum reps. I will say this to you, in 11-on-11 periods, that's the one time in practice when we tell the quarterbacks to mix the cadence up. We do not want to hear the same cadence twice. We've done the whole practice and all the drills on sound. Now we need to mix the cadences up and let the kids get a feel for how to stay on sides and be patient. And that's it. That's our racehorse practice philosophy. And like I said earlier, wing T coaches can adapt to any practice plan. Other coaches find it harder to adapt to this because there's just so much detail in it. But it is absolutely the way to make the wing